Welcome to the next episode. In this episode we will start from the art by M.Dillman. I do love her style. She's definitely one of the best creators of the books if you love to color fairies and if you love to color mermaids. I have her Coloring Haven edition, but these pictures you can also find in separate books by Meredith, the same designs. Well, as usual, let's start from the end. It's easier to color. I would say that in this book each design is absolutely beautiful and I can color all of them. I do love that all the fairies, they have beautiful faces. I do love that in many of the pictures we can find some medieval or Renaissance details on the costumes, on the dresses, and even in the composition of the page. I also love that in this book we have a mix of her fairy designs and designs with a little bit of Asian style, so some elements from Asian legends, Asian fairy tales, and apart from beautiful fairies we also have beautiful botanical details. She is good also at drawing animals and birds. Well, it was a page where I did first neo-color background, then on top of it I worked a little bit with pencils to smooth areas where I wasn't exactly happy. I think that it's not the very frequent thing for me to do the red background, but here I thought that the intensity of the background and dark colors of the trees can create a nice contrast to the shiny wings and light colors on the clothes of this fairy. Again, you can see that it has some Japanese style dress, a little bit like kimono, and I do love this mix. The next one I did using simple acrylic paint for the green background. I thought that the page is detailed enough and such a plain background will work well to create good contrast to the colors. But around the fairy I also added shiny acrylic, so I hope that it's visible that she's surrounded by shiny halo. I think that here I used Derwent drawings probably and Prismacolors. Prismacolors mostly more frequently used media here. I do love green dresses, and when I see dress in such style, the green is my first obvious choice, and for such oak fairy it was a good suit. I think that on the wings, first I covered them with acrylic paint in a very light pistachio green color, then I added a little bit of yellow color with pencils around her head, behind her head and behind her hair, and then I added also a little bit of pearlescent acrylic paint, so in real life you would be able to see this very delicate greenish shining here. I definitely need to return to this book, it's so beautiful. Here the background was a challenge because I didn't want to use paint, it was too intense. Here I wanted something very light, very transparent, to show that the light is coming through the branches of the peach tree, so I had to work with pencils. Probably it wasn't my best work on the backgrounds, but at least all those cream and peach colors created a nice addition to the flowers. Shape of the flowers was so beautiful. As I said, she's really good at drawing botanical details. And I do love her. I think that it's more like Korean style dress. Very nice. And two more designs. I think that it was my first in this book. Anyway, all these colorings, they are available on my channel. As usual, I will try to leave you a link to the playlist with this design, so if you have these books from Amazon you can color together with me. Here again green dress, but much less intense, more pastel colors. Of course I used Prismacolors. I think you can recognize sap green, pale sage, so they are very helpful here. And dark background, because I wanted good contrast to all the lanterns which are hanging from branches and also which she's hanging in her arm. Very nice. And another one. Here I do love the tree. It's unusual, but I think that it's a maple tree during the fall season, when indeed they turn into all those shades of red colors. And I do love foxes here. I'm not happy how I did water. It doesn't look like water at all, even if I tried to show a reflection of the tree above in the surface of the water. And maybe on her kimono contrasts are a little bit too strong. Maybe I had to use just one color. Maybe with this turquoise she would be nicer. But anyway, I hope that at least you can see that the initial designs, they are really good, and this book, not this book, it's not available, of course, it's Coloring Haven, but at least designs by M.Dillman, they are really nice, and she's definitely one of the most gifted artists. And if we started with Coloring Haven, let me show you another issue. Here I was much less successful. Probably something not correctly grammarly, but anyway, here I colored lesser amount of pictures and I enjoy them not as much as M.Dillman designs, and that's because I would say that black lines in this book, they are terribly thick. I do love the idea of the fairy tales in Hannah Lynn style, and I do love Hannah's style, but I dislike such thick black lines. That's when I definitely start to think that I color in children's book, and all those lines, they terribly distract attention from the colors. Idea, great. Composition of the page, absolutely great, but thickness of these black lines, for me, it's killing me, honestly. So for now, I did couple of pictures. Let me show from the first one. You can see that here I also struggled with the black lines. At least on the dress I managed to mask them with white, but that's when I realized that on each and every of such pages I won't be able to mask them. I would prefer to mask them also on the pumpkins, but I would color it lesser amount of time comparing to the masking all those black lines. I needed twice longer time in such case. The background here is interesting. I did it with Neocolor crayons, and then on top of it with white pencil I created this shining around the magical wand and added glitter tiny dots with blue and bigger white stars around. So her wand is shining and she is trying to turn the pumpkin into the carriage. Another one again I did with Neocolors. It's not bad, but again I would prefer to have less thick lines on her dress, on her wings. And I think that it's all, even if I do have another page which I want to color. Look here, it's absolutely terrible. Some of the designs are not bad, but again, very thick lines here and here. And this one is good, but with thin lines, just like we had in M.Dillman, it would be absolutely perfect books. I would purchase then all books by Hannah Lynn. Maybe I have to check, maybe Hannah Lynn's book they are printed with thin lines, and maybe it's just the issue with this magazine edition. This is the design which I would like to color. Maybe I need to do better study in Hannah Lynn's designs. Next, I decided to show you my only book by L.Filonenko. Usually I'm not a huge fan of grayscale, but here her grayscale is very delicate and very helpful for coloring. And also book is printed on great paper, and I do love the idea of dedicating pictures to various dances and also adding different flowers behind. So what I did here. Here I used acrylic gouache in these muted colors for the background. Then I did flowers in using some similar shades for the background. I thought that it would create a nice connection. Some of them are more yellowish, but also with this dull peach color. And of course, the biggest fun I got from coloring dress. I would say that it was inspired by the book by Great Gatsby. There, all ladies in this book, they had beautiful dresses. So I tried to show all those embroidery, beads, fringe, which were traditional for such style of dresses. I used pencils first and then I worked with paint to add better texture on the fur and here on the fringe. Next one I have this tango. Well, the background I struggled a little bit and I'm still not sure if I did the right thing when I added those yellow circles and on top of the violet, but I wanted to show the atmosphere of the evening, so that's why I selected dark violet. Then behind the couple I tried to make slightly lighter colors on the background and I did this yellow to show that maybe there are distinct lights from the city somewhere behind them. So I hope that these yellow colors, they will represent city lights. And I think that when I added a little bit of yellow on magnolia flowers, they help to unite the whole page. I also added a little bit of yellow shining on the skin of the girl, on the white parts of his skirt, of his clothes, so everything is highlighted by this electric light. And of course the red, it's a passion color, quite appropriate for the tango. Next, I have a page where I tested my set of Black Widow pencils intended for coloring dark skin tones, and even if I would say that they need slightly more toothy paper, still they had quite helpful colors here. I tried to do this probably Malaysian dancer. I do love her decoration on her head, very beautiful. I tried to color it with shades of gold and with quite intense colors traditional for the Asian dancers. It was challenging to do slightly more yellowish olive skin tone, and that set of pencils, it was helpful. In the background I used Derwent Drawing with their very light colors because I didn't want at all to distract attention from the beautiful girl. Next, the background again I did with acrylic. I simply didn't have any creative ideas here. I tried to make connection between inner parts of the Kala lilies and her dress. Here I'm not sure that I did a right shading on her body, but I was trying to learn and I hope that her dress looks, probably it's samba, something like this, and I hope that her dress looks quite shining. I added those white dots to represent beads or paillettes. And finally I have this can-can dance. I decided that black frame would create a nice contrast to the inner part. We have evening in Paris. I added those fireworks on the background. I used first normal watercolor, which created more matte cover. Then with pearlescent watercolor I added those sparkles, those fireworks. On her skin I remember that I used my pencils Kohinoor Polycolor. I purchased several colors which they intended for the fair skin, and on top of the gray they worked not bad. And the biggest fun was to color her skirt. Absolutely beautiful. She's quite pretty, and I think that she's the best dancer of Moulin Rouge. Now I definitely think that I need to color more in this book. I like it. I want to do this one in Slavic style. Next, let's have a look at my books by A.Koldareva. And we will start from this giant book about dragons. I really love it. Well, I prefer a little bit more smaller size of the Anastasia books, but I do love this one because it's printed on a very good, almost watercolor paper. And that's why I mostly use here a mix of watercolor and then colored pencils. Here you can see how I did a watercolor background on the night sky, on the tree, even on the lanterns, then on the ground. I think that I even did first underpaint on the dragon with watercolors. Only the princess here I did completely with Prismacolors. On the scales on the dragon I also added a little bit of gold watercolor, so it's shiny in real life. Maybe I need to do this one. Very good winter picture. Next one which I did here, I think that here I again used watercolor. For the dragon I mostly used Prismacolor pencils, definitely, but maybe also a little bit of watercolor. I think that I will try to leave a video for this page, and I will leave you a link in the end. I think the dragon is quite cute. I loved this page from the very beginning, and I decided to use for such a lovely dragon with definitely with a sweet tooth, to use unusual colors. So that's why he is a bubblegum pink with a little bit of yellow and orange to make him even more interesting. When I did it, I thought that maybe background is a little bit dull and boring, so I tried to add some kind of garlands. Then I was afraid that it doesn't match the idea, that it's not the best thing, so they are almost invisible, and maybe it's not the bad thing. Something is available in the background, but not too bright, not too contrast. Definitely all the attention goes to all these sweets, candies, lollipops. I hope that they do look quite yummy. I especially love this one, and of course candy canes. Here I have another very good winter page which I want to color again each year, and I never have enough time. But I have had time for this holiday, for this Halloween design. I think that here I also managed to do quite nice watercolor background. On the pumpkin and on the background I used watercolors, on the dragon pencils. I think that the cutest thing here is his head. It also has tiny pumpkins, but also candles and berries, and even the spider here. It's not disgusting, not frightening. So dragon here is absolutely charming. I love his eye. I love dragons with big eyes. And I had another page which I started. I wasn't happy with the background. It's very old work. Another huge book is Legends about Mermaids. I think that then Anastasia edited this one, deleted part of the pictures, added some pictures, but I have first edition again printed on a very thick paper. You can see how thick is this book. For now, I think that I have here 3 finished designs. Actually, it was the last which I did here, and I played with regular and pearl watercolors, so the tail of the mermaid and around fishes. Many elements here, they are shiny. And fun thing is that for some of the fishes and also on the seaweeds, I used how to call them, highlighters, normal text highlighters. I used them in light green, light yellow, light purple colors, and actually they are quite good for coloring when you need to put a basic color and then to add shading on top of it with pencils. You can easily use highlighters. Maybe I need to use them more frequently, but I remember that it was quite fun. Next I have this one. I wanted to do something apart from the traditional blue water, so I decided that maybe yellow-green can be also a good choice. You can see that it was my first stages of coloring when I never thought about deleting black lines. Sometimes I outline mermaids if I had matching colors of gel pens, like I did here on the tail, or I tried to outline them with semi-opaque watercolors, especially metallic watercolors, but mostly I didn't bother myself with such things. And finally I have this one. It was my first in this book where I tested paper and I was really impressed. I think that it was the best paper among all the editions by Anastasia because indeed it took water really well and it's very helpful when you need to color mermaids. Background, which allows you to work with watercolor, is one step to success if you need to do mermaid pictures. Then your background you will be able to do quick and easy and then to concentrate on the main image. Just like I prefer to color, everything is colorful. I used almost all palette of Prismacolors here, but I think that for such beautiful mermaid, she deserved to be surrounded by many colorful and beautiful things. So corals are bright, all those sea creatures are bright. And I even tested something here. Now let's move to her smaller books. I love Anastasia designs. They are beautiful. Maybe she creates the most beautiful portraits books now on the market, but I have only one and it's Mysteria. Here I mostly prefer to color with polychromos. Only if I need some very light pastel colors, then I add Prismacolors. Also sometimes I use one of the light Derwent drawing pencils if I need to blend skin better. I remember that on this page I started from the end because it's easier for me to flip. I remember that here on the background I tried to use Derwent Graphitint and it was almost a failure. On this paper they didn't want to work really well. Previously, a couple of days before I did this one, I used graphitints in Hannah Carlson book and I was extremely happy how they helped me to create nice background in similar muted colors. I thought that wow, it would be perfect for this portrait, which I think has something from Scotland, maybe because of the thistle here. So I thought that background in muted purple and muted blue can be quite a good choice for this portrait, but I didn't like how they behaved, how they looked after I used water on graphitints, so I had to use on top of it gray and blue and great lavender from Prismacolors to smooth areas where there were not very pleasant stains. For the main image I used polychromos, as I said. I'm still not sure that I did the right choice for the color of her dress, but it's almost invisible, so even if it's not the best, it at least didn't mess up with the whole page. I thought that maybe it would match color of her eyes. Probably that's why I selected this blue for her dress. But honestly, I do love here as a main element the raven. I hope that I will be able to film it normally to show that it has feathers, gray feathers on the uh, breast, on the body here. I even added a little bit of beige. Um, on the black feathers there is also a little bit of purple and bluish um, shining, so they also look not just flat gray black but with additional color accents. And I think that it was one of my first successful attempts how to do dark almost black hair. I also added some colorful accents here and tried to show texture nicely. I deliberately wanted her to be quite pale to attract all the attention to her lips and eyes, so I hope that I managed to do it. The next one is this fall design. When I got the book I immediately knew that this one will be fall designs, trying to use again more muted colors for the background, so I think that it's a little bit of Derwent drawing and Derwent and polychromos pencils and polychromos for the lady, obviously. I think that this touch of her red dress and red berries, it created a nice connection on the page. I also love how Anastasia draw owls. Absolutely adorable on all the pictures, so I always enjoy when I have a new page with owls. I do love to color them. I try to color them also in slightly different way, more gray or more brown, so it's also a good practice. The next one is this very bright lady. I immediately knew that I want to try portrait with very colorful hair, and it was a perfect choice for such type of the hairstyle. So I tried to this fantasy color combo of orange, yellow, magenta, a very intense dark wine red near the roots of the hair, and of course to match her very bright hair I decided that she will have freckles on the nose. It was also quite nice experience to do such type of skin. She has freckles on the shoulder, and I do love her green eyes. Next one I have this dreaming girl, and of course peonies, they are absolutely beautiful here. I am still not sure how it was intended. Maybe they are real flowers or maybe they are jewelry in the shape of peonies. For me they are more like jewelry. You know, that beautiful Tiffany jewelry which were inspired by the flowers and other natural things, so I decided that maybe I will also try to create this impression of jewelry made from transparent glass, probably, or some transparent gemstones. That's why I decided to do this contrast line on each of the leaves. If I would do normal peony, I would mask such black lines. And I I made her with the violet eyes to match color of the background. Another good attempt on the dark hair. Here I tried to show some texture even on the area where I intended to do shadow, and also some highlights apart from black and gray. Here I used a little bit of violet to make connection with the background and a little bit of cream. Next one I have this lady with owl again. You can see that this one is more like a white owl. I don't know why I decided that it will be completely in Indian style but with such color of the hair. Maybe it would be more in the style of this page to do her with black hair. Maybe I was just tired and I wanted to try something new, to try new color of the hair. So maybe not matching the idea, but I still love her look. I do love how I added these stripes, and I also added the background. I tried to think which elements from the life of Native Americans I can draw, so I decided to do this wooden totem, wooden statue behind her, and also some kind of the house of the Native Americans. So I don't know. I do love it. Maybe it's far from perfect, but I do love how all those small bright things like these beads in red and turquoise blue colors create some bright spots on the page, and the rest is made in more calm colors. So as I have always have problems with coloring big portraits, when I do something not bad, I am always proud of myself. Here I have one which I do love. It was my first work here, and honestly I don't know why I hadn't finished it. And it would be quite easy to do the outer part. You know that I love to color gold with Prismacolors or with polychromas, it doesn't matter. I think that the ultimate reason why I hadn't finished it is because I didn't know what to do with the inner part. Do I need to do here golden plate? Maybe to match her nails and to match the outer part of the plate, or maybe to do just simple plain black background. It definitely would create quite good contrast to her relatively light skin. So that was the area which created some troubles for me, and that's why I hadn't finished it yet. Yes, I think that it's all in this book, not too much, but I do love all my portraits here. I also own another pair of Coloring Haven magazines, Myth and Mythology special by Lindsay Archer. I really treasure a lot because I don't think if there are any other books by Lindsay Archer, and I do love her style, and you also know that I am a huge fan of everything related to magic and mythology special, so this book is really quite good. But I managed to color only a couple of pictures here in this magazine. The first one was this page, which was initially called Spellcraft, but I colored it when I participated in coloring contest, and we had to color something related to dances around the world, and I decided to turn it into flamenco dance. I thought that the dress of this lady really reminds me about dresses of Spanish dancers, so to maintain spirit of the passion flamenco dance, I did this very bright, almost fire background, and it was one of my first attempts to color with acrylic paints. Actually, here the background, her dress, and the flame, everything colored with watercolors. Only sleeves, her skin and hair I made with pencils. So even if in the beginning I was afraid how to color with acrylic, I'm not sure, especially the background, do I need to blend better, or it's better to leave those brush strokes, and I also had to adjust to this paper. Then I relaxed and I realized that it's simply page from the magazine. Nothing happens even if I mess up a little bit with my first attempt with acrylic, but I will gain some experience and I can easily start from another page. Second picture which I selected here and which I colored was Ganesha. Here I did a very plain background, but still very pleasant. I think that I used gouache in quite nice royal blue color. It's pleasant blue, pastel blue. I do love to use it, and I think that it's match the main image. Around Ganesha I also added some sparkly dots. I think that I used gold and bronze acrylic paint here around him. And you know that I love to color golden things. It was again at that stage of coloring when I didn't bother to mask biggest the main amount of the black lines. Now I think that I would prefer to mask some black lines at least on the golden elements, But still, I do love this color palette here with the intense red on the coat, blue for the clothes. It was quite interesting to do skin with the violet tones. I think that it was my one and only try to use such a color for the skin, and it was quite interesting to do something such unusual. So I also do love this page. I need to research if there are any coloring books by Lindsay Archer. Or maybe I just have to color in this one. Oh, it's so fun. Well, next I have a compilation of the best pictures from Coloring Haven magazines in 2018. But here I colored only pictures by Jasmine Beckett Griffith, because at that moment when I got this magazine I didn't have Halloween book by Jasmine. Now I have it, so if I want to color something I color actually in the book, because paper there is much better. But at this moment when I did it, I wanted to color Halloween designs, so I did this one. I think that I used Neocolor crayons for this quite a dark and not very friendly sky, but of course it's a Halloween page, so anything have to be cheerful and bright, and I think that I do love the impression of this background. Of course on the Blue Angel paper it would be better, but even here it's not bad. And the second one, where I used a lot of media, even the alcohol markers for this strange background which I don't like. But I do love how on this dull background, how it creates contrast to the very light hair, to her light skin. On the skulls, I remember that I experimented with shades from the color blend set, also not very frequently used by me, but I think that it was the first time when I realized that apart from various gray colors, if you want to color more artistic looking skull, you need to add a little bit of beige or yellow to them, so some other colors, highlights, reflections, and it was one of the nicer skulls which I did on my pictures. And that was the moment when I realized that I want to collect all books by Jasmine. And let me show you quickly a book by Kevin Tero Art. I think that I got it 2 months ago, and for now I did just one portrait when I tested paper. It's a grayscale book, so I wasn't sure how to do skin here, but in the end everything turned quite well, and I really think that here gray shading is very helpful for such beginners as I am. I used more creamy and opaque pencils to be sure that I will be able nicely cover gray areas on the skin. And surprisingly, on this book, which is actually printed on regular Amazon paper, my Color pencils, they worked well. Other pencils also work well, even such pencils like Color Softs. I managed to use them here for the background color, but Colors blended and lay down extremely well, so definitely when I will be doing other pictures here, I will try to use more Colors. I actually love this set. And finally, my book by Anne Stokes. And again, design which I did just a couple of months ago when I was asked to explain how to color this fur. And for the wolf, I used polychromos. For the girl, I think polychromos and Color for her dress. The background, definitely not the best thing here. For me, it was excessive amount of black lines. Maybe they were intended to represent hills or mountains behind, but there were too much of them. First I tried to cover them with acrylic, then I added a little bit of pencils on top to get more opaque and matte coverage. So in the end it's not beautiful by itself, but at least it creates again good contrast to the main characters here. For the lower part, I think that again I used colors on this paper. They work well. They have nice muted greens, interesting shades of gray like gray brown, gray green, which are also quite helpful for such style of pictures. And I was quite pleased because this Anne Stokes book I owned for several years and I hadn't touched it. I colored her set of postcards which has similar designs, four similar designs, but in this bigger book it was my first attempt. I also tried to use watercolor on this page, but I realized that actually there is a risk of bleeding. Maybe now it's not visible after it dried, but I just tested pale blue color, so if I would use something more intense, there definitely be some bleeding. And I realized that for my next projects here I will stick to gouache and to acrylic paints which never bleed through. So it was another good choice, another experience which I try not to forget. I definitely will try to color more in this book because I love Anne Stokes' style. Maybe not all pictures here were perfectly transformed from Anne's own paintings into the line style pictures. You know that she does her pictures mostly digitally, so when they were transformed into line art coloring pictures, maybe there is excessive amount of black lines, but if you use paints like acrylic or gouache, you are able to cover areas where you are not very happy, like this area, too much stains here, too much dark lines here. But by combining various medium, I think that it's possible to do here quite nice pictures, and many designs are amazing. I do love this one, perfect winter design. Anyway, I hope that this part also was interesting, and I hope to see you in the next part because I still have a lot of books colored and uncolored.